let's talk about the first degree in the United States to cost, by our projections, over $700,000. It's the NYU College of Dentistry's DDS degree. And boy, oh boy, is it expensive. Now, NYU is not special in the sense that most private dental schools will put you in a massive amount of student loan debt. What's unique about NYU, in my opinion, is the way they tried to obfuscate and kind of hide the actual costs that you would incur in going to their program. For example, as recently as 2017-2018, the school would list the cost of attendance for students' budget on their website. Why did they remove that information a couple years later? Because it makes the per year total look absolutely insane. After all, if you're paying $100,000 of direct educational expenses to attend NYU, what are you supposed to do? Live in a cardboard box so that you don't have to take out too much more debt? Obviously, that's not possible. And if you look at what you would have to spend in a place like New York City to live, you're probably going to need to budget $40,000 for living expenses. Now, if you multiply that total over 4 years, you're looking at $400,000 of direct educational expense and $160,000 of direct living expense. That's $560,000, but we know that we're not finished there. What you can expect is tuition inflation, which has happened almost every year at a school like NYU Dental School. Also, you should expect origination fees, where the government's going to take 1 to 4% of everything that you borrow as an upfront commission that they'll bake into your loan. Finally, you have to consider the biggest cost of all, accrued interest at a 6% interest rate will grow and grow and grow while you're in school. If you add up each one of these individual costs, the total sums to $700,000. That is unbelievable. Why would you have to pay $700,000 for a degree? Well, it's because a lot of people apply to schools like NYU Dental School. And why is NYU able to charge so much money? That's a great question, and the answer is the federal government does not limit the amount of money that you can borrow for a degree. It simply asks, what is the cost of attendance provided by the school, and they will give you that full amount to you. Now, that is a ridiculous, stupid policy. It doesn't take an expert to see that that has led to runaway inflation for graduate school degree programs in particular. And why is going to a school like NYU Dental School potentially still a sound financial decision when you have to borrow $700,000? We'll tell you why. It's because you can pay a percentage of your income to pay it back. If you're paying 10% of your income for 20 years, then you will only pay a very modest amount of money compared to what you borrow at a school like NYU Dental School. In addition to that, if you're just having to pay a tax on the forgiven student loan debt balance, because that's how the student loan forgiveness programs work. You have to pay income taxes on the forgiven balance after 20 years of payments based on your income. You can simply save maybe $1,000 a month in an index mutual fund brokerage account, and you'll likely have enough to pay that income tax burden with. If you look at both of those two costs, around 15 to 20% is the maximum percentage of your income that would be lost to loans and going to a school like NYU, although it's very unlikely that they're actually going to end up charging that income tax bomb, because when it hits people, you're going to have a bunch of 50, 60-year-old doctors, dentists, lawyers, attorneys, all these different folks that are going to have to pay income tax burdens, and that's not going to happen politically for a bunch of well-connected, high-income, very important voters in people's districts to get hit with these tax burdens that'll wreck their retirement. It's just probably not going to happen. So if you look at the reality that it's very unlikely that people are going to get hit with the full force of that $700,000, you're not going to see people try to pay this debt back. You know, if you think about the 10-year payments on a payment like NYU-sized dental school debt, you'd have to pay over $80,000 or $90,000 to actually pay the debt back in at least 10 years. The average typical income for somebody coming out of NYU, from our experience, is around $120,000 to $150,000, and it's probably more like $130,000 on average. Keep in mind, a lot of people that graduate and go to practice in New York also have to do a one-year residency as well. So if you're trying to pay your debt back, you would have to lose 100% or even more than 100% of your take-home pay to attend a school like NYU and use the traditional debt repayment methods. This is not just true of just NYU, I want to stress. You could potentially come out with owing $700,000 for a dental school degree at other schools out there like A.T. Still, USC, Midwestern, and others. The reality is that dental school can still be a decent decision, but you have to be ready to have your student loan debt be like an income tax instead of like a debt. If you try to pay it back the traditional way, you're going to fail and you're going to be miserable. So don't be miserable if you have a lot of student loan debt or you are really struggling, you can get a plan to conquer your financial anxiety. That's what Student Loan Planner does. So check out our site, Student Loan Planner, to learn about how our CFP and CFA consultants help with that. And if you do have a modest amount of dental school debt because you were lucky and you went to an in-state school and you only have a couple $100,000, we'd love to help you get the best refinancing deal. You can also find those deals on our site that we'll put in the description. Thanks for watching, and if you do sign up for a $700,000 degree, I hope it's worth it.